I'm James Helder. Welcome to Full Court Football 24. Quite privileged to be joined by former Charlton, Leyton Orient, Wimbledon, Chesterfield, Rotherham United, Southend United, Colchester United, Barnsley, Bristol City, Leyton Orient, Notts County, Sheffield United, Chesterfield, Barnet, Carlisle United, Stevenage and Colchester United star Jamal Campbell Ryce. How are you, mate? You all right?
That's a list, that is.
Quite some teams in there, aren't there, Jay?
Telling you, mate. Telling you, it's a journey. It's been a journey, mate.
Did you feel like that when you was playing, or was it only when you look back after you realise sort of how many teams you played for?
You know what it is? I've had this this question so many times in lockdown, as you can imagine, like amount of interviews and stuff that I've done and all the rest of it, which has been great. And people always ask me why so many clubs and all the rest of it, and I'm just like, in my career, as a young boy, I always said to myself, I can only say to myself, I've made it as a footballer once I've played 500 league games or 500 games. And my mindset was always, I just want to play. Like, no matter whether I'm at Barnet, like you said, or Carlisle, Sheffield United, Bristol City, all of them teams, Barnsley, my mindset has never changed. I just want to play. If a manager brings me and signs me, brilliant, I'm playing. But we all know what football is like, injuries, changing managers and all the rest of it, form. And sometimes you find yourself out of the team. For me, if I find myself out of the team, then just let me go. Like, I've got no time to be sitting down and picking up my wages and being a nice geezer, like a good squad player. Now I want to play. And thankfully, played, I think, 550 odd games. And along that way, it's been a journey, and I'm very proud of that. And I'd much rather play those games rather than play, I don't know, mid 200, mid 300, and just sit down on the contract and say, oh yeah, he was a nice guy.
I can fully relate to that. And I want to get into some of the intricacies of your journey today. But I think it's only right that we start at the beginning of this story. I know you're from Lambeth. What area and what borough would you have been brought up in?
Yeah, I was born there, born at St Thomas's Hospital there. Mum lived there briefly, but we quickly moved to northwest London. I was brought up in Hulls and Wembley, and then West London in Norfolk. I went to school in primary school in Wembley and secondary school in Harrow. So I'm a West London boy at heart, really.
Okay. What's your earliest sort of memory of playing football? How did that initial involvement in the game start for you, Jamal?
You know what? I started really late, to be honest. My eldest boy is 13 right now and loves football and stuff. But, he's playing grassroots football. I mean, he had a couple of trials at Notts Forest and Notts County and Leicester. And he's desperate to get into an academy and into the fold. But I keep telling him not to panic, and he's got so much time, because I never started playing football until I was 15. And got picked up playing for Borough, Harrow, by Millwall. And yeah, the journey started from there. I was obviously just a quick winger. Kind of openly and honestly admit that I was raw, but just had raw pace. And Millwall picked me up, took me in, gave me a school book, and then it just went from there. But yeah, all my friends always used to tell me when I was in the playground, "Oh, come and join my team, come and join this team." And to be honest, as well, part of it was my mum she was a strict Jamaican parent. Didn't want me to derail from the books and school and all the rest of it, and she thought that would. But she could see that I had a passion for it and allowed me to join a Sunday League club in St Joseph's, which was brilliant. And yeah, just playing for my school, for my borough, for my county, and then finally got into an academy, and it was fantastic.
Do you think playing for the borough and then the academy, do you think playing for the borough and then the county team, the district team, that gave you that platform, that gave you the ability for the scouts to see you at that age?
Yeah, most definitely. What was great as well, we had a really good school team, but my borough and my county team were exceptional. We had the likes of Jerome Thomas in there, who played for Harrow and Middlesex, who played together. Not only him, to be fair, the majority of the squad have fell out the game quite early. But in the early days, like we had a whole host of QPR boys playing for our borough and our county. Ryan Austin, Alex Dick, all types of players, and there was always scouts at our game. So it was just one of them. It was just like you have a good couple of games, and then you will get noticed. So I was lucky in that, in terms of that.
How did the initial conversation go with Millwall? How did they contact you and your family, and what was your mum's response to the news that Millwall were interested in bringing you there?
It's funny. The geezer that scouted me, Andy Sullivan, who we're really still close now. I see him as a really close family friend now, and he's a guy that brought me into football, and he was brilliant for me. And at the first time, well, back then, he was allowed to approach players, weren't he? And he'd come up to me after my Harrow game. I think that he was playing. Yeah, we were actually. We were playing at Brent, at Brent playing fields, and come up to me, give me his card. Obviously, I was over the moon. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember like getting home and telling my mum. She was like, "Bloody Millwall, how are you gonna get there? It's so far." Obviously, my mum was a full time worker, obviously full time parent as well, and obviously after work, trying to get over. We was training at Sheen at the time as a schoolboy. Trying to get over to Sheen from Norfolk was a nightmare. And she done it one night. It was really late. Not to her fault. It was obviously traffic and her finishing work. But then once we got there, the coaches were brilliant. Like said that they would happily meet halfway and stuff like that. I soon started to get the train. So I think I used to meet Andy Sullivan at Ladbroke Grove where he lived. And we used to travel together, and it was brilliant. But yeah, those early memories were fantastic for me. Just the excitement as a young boy coming into the game.
How did it play out for you at Millwall as a young boy then? How did that?
Do you know what? Like I said, well, I alluded to earlier. Like, started off as a young boy. I was raw. I was just quick and direct. And obviously playing for the schoolboys and done well enough to earn myself a scholar. And that scholar, the day of Mill were brilliant with things like that. They used to make an evening of it, like all the scholars that got offered, bring them down to the den with the parents and stuff, take pictures, have a meal and stuff. And it was brilliant. It was like one of the best days or evenings of my life at the time. But that was quickly like overshadowed by as soon as we got in the car. My mum said she spoke to one of the coaches and he was like, "Oh, you don't think Jamal will make it? We'll give him a scholar because he's a really nice boy." So you can imagine like, going on a high to a complete low, and my mum was like, "We've got a lot of work to do to prove these people wrong." That's what I did, and to be fair, started my scholar there, done 6 months, and then Charlton bought me from there, which was brilliant as well. So finished my scholar off at Charlton and become a pro.
Was it hard for you to make that switch to Charlton and that transition, or was it something that you embraced?
Nah, it was definitely easy. At the time, Charlton were a Premier League club. Alan Kirbishy obviously was the manager, and obviously everyone knows the type of job that Alan Kirbishy done there. There was Charlton fighting for Europe, like year in year out. Unbelievable what he done with the players that he acquired. Obviously in the Premier League, Charlton weren't seen then as one of the bigger sides, but always managed to compete with the bigger sides, and it was brilliant. But going there was fantastic. A club that I hold in high esteem and close to my heart. It's like a real family club there, and I loved it.
What's your first impressions of Alan Kirbishley as a young player?
He's a man of not so many words, not easily pleased. He reminds me he's really old school, not really into the banter and stuff. When it's time to work, it's work time. He's not really into the laughing and joking and stuff, but that was his methods, and his methods, they worked. He was really successful, and I feel privileged that I was able to be at a club that he was a part of, and so successfully.
Who was most helpful to you? What senior player would have spent a lot of time with you and telling you about winning mentality and showing you things as a young pro?
You know what? Back then, I was so lucky that sounds so cliche saying that everyone was great, but honestly, it was like such a family club that everybody, all the pros would talk to all the YTs and the young players and stuff. They always want to put their arm around you, and it was like that old school, like tough love, bit of banter, stick you upside down in the bin, and all the things that like I used to buzz off, things like that. You do that now, and you probably find yourself sacked and done for bullying. But that was how football was back in them days. And but players like Evan Hickley was like he was incredible for me. Still very very quick. Jason Newell was immense. I used to meet him halfway as well. We used to drive in together. Yuli was superb, great professional. But he likes the Martin Sellers and the Scott Parkers and all the rest of it. Not so much what they would say to you, but just how they would guide you in their performances, not only in games but in training. That's one thing that's stuck with me throughout the years. Paolo Di Canio and Herman Rice and Chris Powell, these players, you think with the ability that they have, they just go through training and stuff, but they're the ones that work the hardest, like grafting through training. And that's one thing that's stayed with me for 20 plus years of playing. Yeah, you might be a good player on a Saturday, but you're only that good player because you're grafting Monday to Friday.
As you mentioned, football's in a different generation now in terms of how young players are treated by senior pros. What was your initiation like? Say, for instance, at Charlton, would you have had to have sung a song in front of the players, or was there one sort of thing that you'd have had to have done to initiate yourself into the group?
No, I've never had to do that at Charlton, to be fair. But honestly, like the senior pros, like they were so raw with some of us young boys. Like, and I was a little bit leery back then. Well, still am, but back then being I was 5 foot and like just the loudest person in the club or whatever, like they were quick to strip you naked or put you in a bin upside down or dunk you in an ice bath or whatever. Like I said, like you can't do that in this day and age. But back then, it was like all part of the banter, all part of the initiation, and almost part of like the acceptance, which is great. And you don't see it too much now, and it's unfortunate.
So you would have been playing a lot of reserve team football at that stage for Charlton, I'm guessing, against big men, because it's different now to the under 23s, to the reserve system that you would have played under. Everybody would have at one time been playing reserve games.
100%.
What was that like?
You know what,
that experience?
What I'll do is I'll compare it to last year with Colchester, because obviously you probably know, like I was player coach for the under 23s, and obviously I had no idea that I was going to go into coaching, and kind of fell into it. But like the 23s football, I just couldn't believe the lack of urgency in 23s football, and how much of it's like a TU to me, like friendly games in comparison to, like you said, alluding to the reserve games we played, and it was just like playing against men, first team boys that were coming back from injury and not getting enough minutes, not inspired out of the manager's plans. And if I can compare it to players that I played with when I was there, Chris Bart Williams and Stephen Hughes, the players that I was playing week in, week out with, and they were like real men. And like, if you didn't do something right, they were telling you, and there was no sugarcoating it. It's either I had to man up or I just wouldn't play. And that was what it was like playing against them type of players. They'd kick you, they'd shout at you, they'd scream at you. In comparison to the 23s football now, and it's just like you can hear a pin drop in some of the games, and it's just, for me, I just don't think the upbringing for the kids now is quite the same, and doesn't prepare them for first team football well enough.
You was a tricky, fast winger. In them reserve games, when you're unleashing the pace on people, and you've sort of got past a player once or twice, are you worried in them reserve games that a bad tackle can happen? Is that something that goes through your mind?
No, I'm not worried. I think it's almost expected, because, like you said, playing against all those men, those senior pros, and all the rest of it. Like, you've got to half expect it. I remember playing against players like John Arley and people like that, like left back, and I was up against him right wing. Like, obviously, John Arley was an absolute wonder of a left foot that wasn't the quickest. So if I use my pace against him 2 or 3 times, the next time he wants to leave a bit on me because he doesn't want to get done over again by a young, tricky winger. Um, and that was like, not just in things, that was in training. Like, I'm playing against Buchan in training, and Chris Powell, Herman Ryderson, and I'm skipping past them. Like, they're feeling embarrassed, and Alan Kirbishy's like screaming at them. All the other senior pros are screaming at them. They're leaving a bit on you, and that was brilliant for my upbringing. Like, that quickly turned the boy into a man that I'm going to get clamped. And like, I actually enjoyed it, because if I wasn't getting clamped, then I'm not doing my job. I'm not embarrassing them. I'm not taking them on and making their job easy. So by me taking these players on, that shows that they're actually respecting me in a way by kicking me as hard as they can.
Can you remember the first time you was included in the first team squad? Not be getting
Yeah, I can.
not be getting on straight away, or how did that play out?
Nah, like, to be honest with you, like, when I became a pro at Charlton, I think I signed my first pro. I'd done 2 years as a YT, and then I got 3rd year scholar, because I was unsure about giving me a pro. Then I'd done that 3rd year scholar, and then no, sorry, that's a lie. So I'd done 2 years YT. They weren't sure whether they wanted to give me a pro or a 3rd year scholar, so I went to the exit trials. I think it was like 18 or 19 clubs interested in me. I actually went up to Grimsby on trial when they was in the championship. They offered me a 3-year deal after a week's trial. And then Charlton offered me a 3rd year scholar, and I quickly signed that. And so obviously I was a London boy, local boy, so I believed that I was still good enough. So obviously Grimsby is the end of the earth for me. So yeah, like, done my 3rd year school, I earned myself a year's pro, and I thought at that time, I honestly thought I was ready to be integrated into the first team squad. I was hungry, I was consistent in the resis. Glenn Snobbin was my reserve manager, and he made me reserve team captain, which was at the time for me a huge accolade, like, especially playing with all those senior pros, and for him to give me the armband week in week out was fantastic for me. And I thought I was ready. He thought I was ready, but for some reason, Curbs, like, he was playing everyone but me on the wings, but couldn't argue with it because the first team were always mid-table or above. So I went out on loan, my first loan move, to Leyton Orient, which was hugely successful. But going back to your question, yeah, I do remember, like, I think I travelled the country with Charlton for like a year. Probably was on the bench a handful of times. I think I made like 4 or 5 appearances all off the bench. But yeah, when you're a young lad and you believe that you're ready, and that people around you believe you're ready, and not getting that chance was frustration. So I took that frustration out by just going out and playing games.
Talk to me about your first loan move away from Charlton. So, as you mentioned, you went up to Leyton Orient. How was that? Do you feel that was a necessity for a young player to go out and get games at that stage?
For me, it was. I don't know about anybody else. I thought that was the best thing for my progression, for my development, was to go and play men's football. And remember, I went there on trial, for a loan move, because obviously I was contracted to Charlton. It was a trial, and when I went in there, they already had like 2 or 3 other wide players that they was looking at on trial. And I remember we played the last pre-season game was against West Ham at Brisbane Road, and started off as sub, come on in the second half, and I was playing against Anton Ferdinand, who was playing right back, and I absolutely tore him apart. I was playing on the left wing, he was right back, and tore him apart, and beat him on the outside, cut in for about 25 yards, scored a scream. And obviously, as you know, Leyton Orient and West Ham are rivals and hate each other. Like the whole of Brisbane Road erupted at full house. And then they signed me on loan. And I've done 3 months under Paul Brush, who was, again, brilliant for me. Just allowed me to just go and play my game and express myself and flourished, and I've done really well. And I got loads of accolades for it and scored a few goals under him and ended up going back to Charlton.
What was it like when you got back to Charlton then after that first loan spell? Did you feel that you were now getting closer to maybe establishing yourself there? How did that play out for you?
Going back to Charlton, I was thinking I'm definitely going to be around it now. But again, I went back and it was just literally just the rest of the season was like a tour of the country, just travelling and not being involved. Being me and Michael Turner, just touring the country, like knowing that we weren't going to be involved. Handful of times made the bench, but yeah, he was just touring the country to pick up the kit after games. It was all a part of the development, and for the first probably 3-4 months it was fun, and then after that you just want to play football again.
It must be frustrating because it was then nearly a season and a half before your next loan moved to Wimbledon. So just being on the bench as a young player that much, how did you keep yourself motivated? I know the first 4 months were kind of exciting because you're in hotels, you're around the senior players, I'm guessing a lot more. How did you keep yourself motivated at that time, Jay?
Just the carrot of just wanting to be a footballer. It's easy to just say, "Oh, I can't be bothered with this" or whatever, but it just spurred me on more. Every training session, and travel, and just trying to get in the gaffer's face and just trying to show him and prove to him that you're good enough and the rest of it. And it's difficult, especially at a time like that when you're at Charlton. They're probably punching above their weight, and Curve just doesn't want to change too much. He's playing right backs right wing and left backs left wing. There'll be games where Chris Paul will be playing left wing, or Paul Franceschi will be playing left wing. Radistin Kishishev will be playing right wing, and Graham Stewart will be playing right wing. Things like that I had to deal with. And it's frustrating, but like, how can you go and knock on a man's door when he's pulling out results like week in, week out? So you have to, obviously, for me, it was frustrating on a personal level, but collectively for a club, he was doing a fantastic job. But yeah, you have to keep yourself motivated and you have to keep yourself driven, as difficult as it may be. And you've got them reserve games that, like, compared to the coaching staff, there was always at them, and you have to showcase what you're about. And like, the minute you start sulking and throwing your arms around, that's when some things start going wrong for you and going sour. So I've always thought I've had a strong head on my shoulders, and that was just the start of it, really.
What was your loan move at Wimbledon like?
Great bunch of lads there. Obviously went there in the Championship, and there was like rock bottom of the league, struggling. Just moved into the hockey stadium. And only done a month there. I think I played 4 games, and on a personal level, I was way below par before. But listen, and these things happen, and it's all part of the learning curve. Wasn't good enough, but I was playing in a team that was getting dick week in, week out, so it makes it tough to come in on loan again as a young boy and make a significant change when we was on the receiving end of some hide-ins week in, week out, and playing in a hockey stadium when the fans just moved up to Milton Keynes. There was a lot of hatred towards the chairman about the move and all the rest of it. So listen, it might sound like I'm making excuses. I'm not. I'm just, like, on a personal level, I know that, like, I knew my levels were a lot better, and I didn't hit them for whatever reason. But yeah, like I said, it was just all part of the development. But not everything's rosy. Had a fantastic loan spell at Leyton Orient, and I was probably a little bit cocky, thinking that, oh yeah, I've done well at Leyton Orient. I'll just go to Wimbledon and do the same thing. But obviously, playing against better players in a better league was probably a rude awakening.
You finished the second half of that season on loan for Chesterfield. Hit some good form as well, by all accounts. How did you enjoy your time at Chesterfield, and what was that experience like for you as a player?
Chesterfield was almost like a carbon copy of Leyton Orient. I went in with a manager who absolutely loved me, trusted me, believed in me, and probably as one as a young boy, two as a wide player. That's what you want, your manager to show faith and give you that permission to go and express yourself. Because let's have it right, wide players are the ones that are normally always taken off first and the ones that probably give the ball away the most. Obviously, you trying to take players on and all the rest of it. But it was brilliant again. Had a great mixture of experience and youth at the club. Another like family club. The stadium called again Saltergate, I think it was called, the old stadium before they moved into the new one. The fans were brilliant. It was like all the fans in the little town. Everybody knew each other, and it was brilliant. Like I absolutely loved my time there. It was brilliant. I played some really good football there.
See, after you've returned now, you've had 3 loan spells. Are you knocking on the manager's door now and asking, like, what is the plan for you? What is the route for you? How do you develop now into a Charlton first team player?
Well, after I signed my first pro, my first year, I signed a 3-year contract. So like I was thinking, oh, brilliant, 3-year contract, doing that. They see me got the long-term plans, this, that, and the other. So I was just thinking, sign that contract, and that's me running around it. That obviously wasn't meant to be, and again, the frustration. Like, I think what spurred me on more is probably going on all these loan moves and playing in front of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000 people. It spurred me on that. I didn't want to just sit at Charlton, as good as the club was, in the resi playing against 2, 3, 400, and like just not really getting anything out of it. What spurred me on even more was the taste of first team football. So after that Chesterfield move, and I think I ended up signing for Rotherham. My loan move that I'd done that well, and Rotherham coming for me. They were in the Championship again, a bit like Wimbledon. They were bottom of the league and a champ. So I parted ways with Charlton. Decided that I just wanted to leave. I think Rotherham paid a nominal fee for me, and I moved up north. And I think I signed in January. From January to the end of the season, though we were losing most weeks. I gave a great account of myself. I got young player of the year at Rotherham that year. Even though I'd only been there 4 or 5 months, and it was fantastic. And obviously we got relegated, but for me on a personal level, it was brilliant.
How did you handle moving to Rotherham, where you've based in London all your life, and that change as well of environment, of literally amenities, of lifestyle? How did you handle that switch personally?
Yeah, that was if I'm being brutally honest, that was really tough. I'd already moved out of home. My mum's home from when I was like 17, but moving up like 3 hours away, from being like a local London lad, that was probably the time that turned a boy into a man. I had to man up and fend for myself. And it was tough, a lot of lonely evenings and stuff. Not only that, I walked into a dressing room at Rotherham where I was the only black boy as well, which was completely foreign to me. Obviously, being in London, which is so gentrified, and being at Charlton and Millwall, where like the squads were, like I said, very gentrified, and going up to Rotherham, and it was just so foreign to me. I didn't understand the way they spoke, and like the accents, and that was strange to me. All the rest, even the northern banter was a little bit different, but I quickly adapted and had to adapt. And it was either, like I said, it was sink or swim, and luckily I had that strong mentality and I ended up winning.
First season you hit fantastic form for Rotherham, young player of the year as well for the club. Great achievement for yourself. Was there a change of manager after that, or how did that?
Yeah, so the manager that brought me in was Ronnie, and and his assistant John Breckin, and they were brilliant. And they left at the end of the season, and then I think it was Alan Mill got the job, and then after Alan Mill, it was Nick Harford. Um, two coaches have been on to do great things. Obviously, Nick Harford, like great guy, like done so well at Luton, and obviously Alan Mills with Chris Wilder at Sheffield United. So yeah, they'd come back in and started off the new season. There was Paul Brush was the assistant manager at Southend. Paul Brush was my manager at Leighton Orient. And he'd done so well for me in Southend. We were in the up, and he was there with Steve Tilton, and they were putting in bids for me. Southend were, and I was desperate to get back down south. So I had to push for that. I don't know if you've ever come across Harford or heard any stories, but he's an intimidating man. Me telling him at Rotherham that I wanted to leave, and him not wanting me to leave was a difficult conversation. But in the end, I ended up going on loan to Southend because the club couldn't agree a fee, but with a view to a permanent in January. So I was happy to finally getting back down south.
Was that all it was for you then? Just to get back down south potentially? You was happy with the football in Rotherham? You're happy with... I guess the change of manager must have been quite hard to deal with when you're new manager, new ideas and stuff. But was it predominantly based on location?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that I struggled a little bit being up north and all the rest of it. I still enjoy my football, but like the carrot of going back down south and working with Paul Brush, who I'd worked with in the past, and obviously Southend, who were in the up at the time. That was a big thing for me. I was just to get that down there, and yeah, it was just nice that I was able to get it done.
Talk to me about life in Southend. How did you settle initially back down south?
You know what? My initial loan move, like the first 6 months or to January, I was poor. I was really poor. Struggled to perform. I went into a squad, into a team that was doing really well, and had some really good technical players, some players that were doing well. And I struggled to find myself in and out of the side. Um, and it's funny because it come to January, and to be honest, I think I had it over, like it was looming over my head, but Southend and Rotherham hadn't agreed a fee for me yet. Obviously, Rotherham wanted X amount, and Southend only wanted to pay X amount. And what didn't help was my form. And come January, when my loan was up, I was left in a little bit of limbo because I was like, I don't want to go back to Rotherham. And Southend didn't want to pay the fee that Rotherham were asking for. So for about 2 or 3 weeks, I was literally like in limbo, like, get to Rotherham, I'm not coming back. Southend wouldn't pay the money, so my agent was literally on the phone with Southend and Rotherham every day. Couldn't agree a deal. I wasn't playing games. I was just literally training and going to games. And then I got a reprieve from Bill Parkinson in Colchester, who come in for me. So I'd literally had to leave one part of Essex and go to the other. And that's probably where 2 1 year come in, because I ended up going to Colchester, earning promotion again, but having obviously played enough games with Southend as well. They got promotions, so I got promotions with 2 teams in that 1 year.
Did you get 2 promotion medals as well?
I did, mate.
That's insane. That'll be on a question of sport one day. That's got to be one of the most bizarre, trivial questions ever.
I'm proud of that, mate. Proud. Everyone thinks I went into kept bus tours, but I didn't. I only went on the Southend one, so I ended up signing for Southend permanently. So I don't think it'd look right me jumping up and down on the Colchester bus as well. And then I eventually signed permanently in the summer with them. The next following, obviously, we got promotion to the champ, and I was very good that year. Obviously, it was another difficult year. We obviously struggled in that league. We were punching way above our weight. Obviously, the wage bill was not nowhere near half as big as some of the other big hitters like your Derby and the West Broms. We had some fantastic players. And I hit some real form and I done well, and that's what earned me my move to Barnsley.
Big move for you at the time to Barnsley. Were
Yeah, that was.
you a bit dubious about going back up north? Was that something that you'd thought about settling and resettling? Because you seem to hit fantastic form in Essex. So was that a concern of yourself?
No, do you know what? At that time, I was in between agents. My agent had just passed away. God rest his soul, Richard Cody, who I'd been with for quite a while, and he was brilliant. So I'd met up with Crystal Alimu's agent, Tim Webb, and met up with a few agents, um, and I was like, oh, he was like, what do you expect? Or what are you hoping for? I was like, look, I think I'm definitely good enough for the championship. I think I should be earning X amount. I think I'm as good as this player, that player, and they're doing better than me, playing higher than me. And I always have to challenge myself to where I can get. And he was like, look, I'm going to call the bottom 5 or 6 Prem clubs, every champ club, and the top 3 or 4 League One clubs. And he come back to me within a day, like he's got yes, no's, and maybes, and Barnsley with a run that were definite yes, let's get the deal done. When I heard about them, looked at their squad, looked at the manager, and again, like I was really excited by it. And obviously, having been up north already with Chesterfield, Rotherham, I wouldn't be walking into the unknown again. I was more mentally prepared for moving up north, which I think was a big thing at Chesterfield. Going up there, I knew it was only 3 months. It was a 3-month loan, and I was surrounded by quite like another 4 or 5 other London lads and lived with them. So I was probably clouded being at Chesterfield. Rotherham was a rude awakening, but just felt mentally I was prepared for the Barnsley move, and in turn I think I was. Took a little bit of time getting it done, like Southend were digging in the hills with the fee and all the rest of it. Got agreed on deadline day. I had to drive up there. I used to live in Lakeside, so got my agent was like in the morning, like, oh, the deal's dead, completely dead. Southend are asking for too much money. Barnsley won't go above this, blah blah blah. Then I think it was about 8 o'clock, 7:30. I got a phone call. And I'd left my bags by the door just in case. My agent was like, "Look, how quickly can you get up to Birmingham, to West Brom?" I see Barnsley were playing on Saturday. This was a Friday night, and I was just like, "I'll get up there in an hour." I just jumped in my motor and just probably break every speed ticketing rule and all the rest of it just to get up there. Drove to the hotel in West Brom and met my agent there, met the manager, and signed and watched them against West Brom the next day, and just started and ended up moving to Nottingham, which was halfway between London and Barnsley, which was brilliant. So I was still in touching distance of London. I think that helped me as well. But the commute back home was a lot better. But Barnsley was a fantastic club for me. Simon Davey was brilliant for me. And yeah, we had a great season. I had a great 3 years there.
You seem to really enjoy your time at Barnsley. You seem to really flourish there. Do you think you'd matured at that age now? Like you said, where you've had them couple of spells up north, perfect timing. It just seemed to mesh and you really hit the ground running.
Yeah, 100%. Do you know what? I went into a squad, into a team where, obviously, again, we was competing with some big sides there. But what Simon Davey had done was he recruited a lot of foreign players. We had a lot of South American boys and Spanish boys and all the rest of it. So there was a lot of players that weren't comfortable with the physicality of the championship, but technically were up there. Brian Howard was there, Grant McCann was there as well. Like, these players are like we had Anderson De Silva that we signed from Everton, Diego Leon, and so and from Real Madrid B. We had some real top talent there. We had a Brazilian Dennis Souza playing at the back. We had a German left back, a Dutch right back. So the squad had some real ability. And you know what? Yes, mentally I was ready for Barnsley, but at the same time I went to Barnsley and I was learning so much of these other players because they were so technically gifted. But it was so nice to be surrounded by players that were probably more capable of handling the ball than I was. So every day was like a learning day for me. Rowan Ricketts was there. What a fantastic footballer he is. Jacob Butterfield, he was coming through. And he is one of the best players that I've probably played with. Jacob Butterfield, superb two-footed player. So it was a club with fantastic talent. It was brilliant.
You scored a big goal there. You scored a lot of goals there, but one goal in particular to keep the club in the league. Very important goal and a massive moment for the club. Can you remember that day? Can you remember scoring it?
Yeah. Well, I remember that. Like, to be fair to the fans were great. They come down in the thousands, and I remember scoring right in front of them. John Macken just rolled it to me, and you know, I think I've just whipped it in. But it was fantastic. A great moment for the club and a great moment for me personally.
What would you say sorry, I'm just chasing the dog off. What would you say your highlight was from your time at Barnsley? Like, if you had to pick out a particular moment, what moment stays with you?
Probably in the semi-final of the FA Cup, beating Chelsea at home, beating Liverpool at Anfield. Their moments that will stick with you forever. Like, go down in Barnsley folklore, and mentally it was brilliant.
It must always be massive when you go into a game as an underdog and then turn over such a big team. Do you get more satisfaction when people have written you off and when you come away with the 3 points?
I don't know if it's the satisfaction. I just think it's the putting yourself up against those big sides and those big players and players that are earning like 50s and 100 grand a week, and like thinking to yourself, is he that much better than me? And when you play against them, I'm thinking to myself, no, they're not. They're good players. Don't get me wrong, but like and there's so many players that I played with like that in the game that have not quite made it to the top that I've been, but you just don't get that chance. And I remember at Barnsley, like, my chance was to get back to the Premier League. Was Reading put in over £1 million for me, but Barnsley wouldn't let me go. And these are the fine lines that determine, these are life-changing fine lines that I could have been a Premier League player for, I don't know, a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but the deal didn't get agreed, and that's what happened. There's so many players that I played with and played against that these fine margins, you either get on the boat or you miss the boat, and unfortunately you missed.
How do you deal with that as a player when a big offer's coming in for yourself, a chance for yourself to go to a higher division, and it's not facilitated, it's not accepted? How do you deal with that as a footballer?
Yeah. This one, to be honest with you, this one was really tough for me to swallow because Reading was under Steve Coppell at the time. They were absolutely flying. I think they were top of the championship at the time. I remember actually playing against them, and we played against them in April, and I already knew of like the interest in January was coming up. My agent was like, "Oh, this is the one that could rubber stamp them, put them in a bid for you." And that game, I remember that they put Khalifa Cisse on me to man mark me throughout the game, and I literally ran them ragged. Like, I was just going everywhere and had a really good game, and they did put in the bid in, but that one hit hard because it was back down south again. But not only was it back in the south, but it was money that they were talking about was life changing money and all the rest of it. Where you could really set up stuff and all the rest of it. But these things happen in football. How many players have you read about on Sky Sports News over the last 15, 20 years that
Yeah.
this club will come in from, that club will come in from, and they teams dig their heels in and just let things materialise. And it was unfortunate, but taking anything away from Barnsley, obviously I was disappointed, but I still love my time there, and like thankful for the chance that I got to express myself there.
Three successful years at Barnsley. You seem to really enjoyed yourself at the club. Was it a difficult decision for yourself then to leave and join Bristol City?
No, yes and no. Yes, because I'd gained so many friends being at Barnsley again. It was a fantastic club, brilliant, and but at the same time, Simon Davey had left and Mark Robbins had come in, and again, as we all know, new manager, new ideas, and it was just one of those things that, yes, I think I was in his plan, but I don't think we always saw eye to eye. But it was Leeds and Bristol City that had both come in for me, to be fair. Leeds were Leeds 1 and picking, and that was Simon Grayson at the time. He was with my old reserve team coach, and he was assistant Flynn Snodding, and really thought about going to Leeds, but just the city of Bristol, I fell in love with it straight away. Went down and met Gary Johnston, and I just fell in love with it, and just knew straight away that I wanted to go there and get the deal done, and really loved my time there with Bristol City.
At this time, you've got a lot of football experience. You've travelled. You've settled in a lot of different cities. Are you instantly aware when you go somewhere now whether you're going to like it or not? Do you get a first impression or a gut feeling?
It's funny you should say that. Sometimes you just get a feeling when a club is the right fit for you. And like as soon as I went to Wimbledon, like although the change room with the boys were brilliant, I just didn't feel like the fit was right for me for whatever reason. It could be numerous reasons. Barnsley, I knew when as soon as I walked into the dressing room and the boys, how welcoming they were in the stadium, the fans, the manager, I knew that like I could go and flourish there. And Bristol City, as soon as I walked in that first 6 months, I hit the ground running. Although it was tough because Gary Johnson got the sack, I think within a couple of months, which was tough. And then Keith Millen, his assistant, got the job. And then in the summer, Steve Coppell come in. He lasted a month, and then I think it was Keith Millen then got the job permanently again, and he left, and then Derek McInnes come in. So it was a roller coaster time at Bristol City, and I'm probably one of those players that not need an arm around me, but needs a manager that I know is going to believe in me and the rest of it and trust me. And for the first 6 months at Bristol City were brilliant. And the next year was up and down. And then Bristol City acquired Albert Adoma and Yannick Bolasie, have gone on to become esteemed Premier League and Championship footballers and playing in the African nations. And so it was tough in my last year at Bristol City, but I still loved it. I probably regret that my last 6 months to a year at Bristol City, because I don't think I pushed myself as hard as I should have, because that's probably a club where I really felt at home, as in the city as well, and set up shop for the family and stuff. So I probably took my time there for granted a little bit. I absolutely loved it there and wished that I probably spent another couple of years there. But football.
What was Yannick Bolasie like in training? He always strikes me as a very skillful baller. What was he like to train with and be around?
Some of his feet are unbelievable. He's probably one of the strongest players that I've ever trained with and played with. Like, so strong and naturally just so strong. I've played with a few players that are strong, but in his position, obviously, like you obviously think a strong player, you're thinking striker, centre half, whatever. He was a wide man. You touch him, he was just like a block. And he was all when he was taking you on. If he's taking you on, you can always count on Yala to give you a flailing elbow or a hand in the face or whatever. But he was just really thick set, but a great boy. And I'm just so happy that him and Albert have gone on to do really good things.
Is it difficult when someone like Steve Copper, who wanted to sign you for Reading, comes in, doesn't get the time for whatever reason, so you don't get a chance to work with someone who you know whose sessions you're going to enjoy, you know the way his team are set up, etc. Is it difficult for you as a player to then refocus, or how do you sort of deal with that?
I think it's part of football, mate. It's just like I'd love for you to be my manager, James, and like for you to love me, and we'll work together for 2-3 years and everything. But football just doesn't go like that. There's so many other factors that you've got to factor in to being a successful player and manager, and to have a manager that trusts you and loves you, and for him to choose you over everybody else, and you've got to, one, be good enough, and two, have a little bit of luck. And sometimes you get a manager that loves you, but last what, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6, you know what I mean? And then it's like you almost like when a new manager comes, you're on trial again. You've got to start all over again, and it's tough, and it can be mentally draining and mentally tough, but it's just part and parcel of football. It's what you sign up for.
This takes you back to Leyton Orient for a loan spell. Having been so successful there initially, and I know you're at a different stage in your career, you're in a different frame of mind and stuff. How much did you enjoy your second spell there?
Absolutely loved it. And that was under Russell Slade, and the assistant was Kevin Nugent, who I played with up top with in my first loan spell, and I knew Nuge. He was a good geezer, fantastic geezer actually. And it was easy, like Russell Slade and Kevin Nugent, they were brilliant to work with them. Again, went into a very good dressing room. Kevin Lisby was in there, Scott Cuthbert was in there. So it was one of them that were struggling a little bit, managed to stay up and have a very successful time.
How do you refocus yourself at this point? Are you setting new targets for yourself as a professional footballer? Are you trying and striving to achieve the levels, or are you kind of going through the motions at this stage?
No, complete opposite actually. Because at that time when I'd gone on loan to Leyton Orient, my contract was running out at Bristol City. So it was almost like I had to go on loan and do it that last 2-3 months and earn myself a contract somewhere, whether it be at Leyton Orient, whether it be another championship club or whatever. And it so happens that Notts County then wanted to sign me at the end of the season. Obviously, leaving Bristol City was tough for me. And I wanted to stay in the championship, but those opportunities didn't come about. And it was probably the easiest decision to be going to Notts County, because having lived there before when I was at Barnsley, and still had my house there, the family who knew the area. So it was an easy decision. It was an easy move to just go back there, and everything just slotted back into place brilliantly. And under Keith Curl, I probably played some of the best football in my career.
I was just going to say that you seem to be really comfortable at Notts County, club with a massive history as well. Do you think that coincides with your form, like your off the field life being very happy, being very settled, your family dynamic being good? Do you think that had an impact on your football?
100%. And not only that, I probably went into. I played with some very, very good coaches in country, but I have to say that Keith Curl was probably the pinnacle of managers that I played for, just in terms of his understanding of what each of his players needed and all the rest of it. He was big on mutually happy to be good on the field. And he always had meetings and he was like, 2, 3, 4 days off. So you're having drama with your missus at home. And he goes like, that's fine. Come and have a conversation with me. Go and have your days off. And do you know what? When I first signed for Notts, it was brilliant. And I started struggling with injury right from pre-season, right at the beginning of the season. I think I missed the first 8, 9 games of the season. I couldn't shake this calf strain. Every time I kept coming back, I kept breaking down. And it was just frustrating. And the team were doing well, it pissed me off even more. So I was thinking, oh, they don't need me, they don't need me. And he was brilliant. He was like, let's just take your time. He goes, when you're back, you're back. He goes, you will be playing in my team. I've signed you to play you. And he was brilliant, just putting my mind at ease. And when I come back, I literally hit the ground running. And playing under him I could not wait to go to training every day and train. Training was fun. It was hard. It was like tactical training, so boring, and any pro would tell you that. But he put life into every, and not just him, the coaches that he had with him, Colin Lee and Colin West. Colin West is with him now at Northampton, and I'm not surprised that they've eventually got their promotion and done so well. Two great guys, but playing under Keith Curle and Colin West was brilliant. They just understood all the players, and I'll never forget the conversation that we had one morning. Come in and I was stretching, and he was having his breakfast or whatever, and one of the boys that weren't in the side too much, he was having banter with him. And I was like, any danger you having a bit of banter with me like that? And he was like, what do I need to banter and talk to you for? You're playing every week. You're taken care of. You're sweet. I need to worry about the ones that are not in the side and the ones that are upset at 3 o'clock on a Saturday evening, a Saturday afternoon. He goes, my starting 11, you're all fine. It's the ones that are not in the starting 11 that I have to focus on and make sure they're good as gold, and keeping them on point and keeping them buying into the dream and all the rest of it. So I just thought his man management skills were probably the best in the business that I've worked.
Having worked with so many managers and experienced different managers' strengths and weaknesses, I'm guessing that you're in a good position to judge that as well. So it must have been a relief for you as well to be working with someone that has that level of manager skill.
Yeah, I just think if you ask me now, like, who would I rather play for, a good coach or a good manager? Give me a good manager, because a good manager will get the best out of his players, no matter how good or bad of a coach he is. I just think good coaches sometimes haven't got the man management skills to get the best out of their players, whereas a man manager, no matter how crap of a coach he is, he can always get the best out of his players. And I think it's so important.
Played brilliantly at Notts County. You've heard huge reviews. I mean, scouts and teams are coming to watch yourself. That feel-good factor that you've had in your personal life seems to have rubbed off on the pitch. Was it a tough decision for yourself to leave Notts County to then join Sheffield United?
Well, what happened in my first year at Notts County, Keith Curle got the sack. Chris Kwame come in for a short stint. He didn't last. And Sean Berry got the job again. Like Keith Curle, I hold him in such high esteem. Just the way he listen. Every player and every manager deals different players differently and all the rest of it. But Sean Berry was absolutely superb for me. Give me the freedom to that, express myself, and come into the side, and we were really struggling. At Notts County, you talk about the great escape, and if you go into the club and they've got pictures on the wall about it, there was 9 games to go, and we were down and out, and we went 9 games and beat 1-8 and drew 1 to 3 up. And that was with Sean Berry, and under Sean Berry I played again one of my best football. And that time Sheffield United obviously were looking to recruit me. And my contract was running out at Notts County, so I ended up signing for Sheffield United on the free. And I never realised how big that club and they are where they deserve to be now, because they are a Premier League football club with fans, the stadium, the facilities, everything. They don't leave no stone unturned. Just a great football club.
Who was the manager when you signed for Sheffield United?
Nigel Clough.
Nigel Clough. Wow. Obviously, huge pedigree, huge history as well, the Clough name. How did you initially get on with Nigel Clough?
Yeah, he's obviously I don't know his old man. But everyone says he's exactly like his old man, and he's one of them that he has so much staff around him, but just wanted to do everything himself, lay the pitches out and set up the training sessions and take the training sessions and all the rest of it. He had all these staff members that would do almost next to nothing, not because out of idleness or laziness, but because he was that much of a control freak, which is good for him because he knows that obviously everything falls on his head. But a very good coach. It's funny again, like I thought in pre-season I had to be our best player, but start of the season I didn't play a game for the first, I don't know what was it, 8-9 games, and again I could spit my dummy out and sulk and the rest of it, but it just made me work hard. I worked harder in the gym, I worked harder in training, and he was one of them. Pick his side and do tactics on Friday. He'd say you turn away, get to the ground. That normally at every other club you get there an hour and a half, hour and 45 before the game or whatever. He was one of them. Get there at 2:00, get in and out. He'd walk in and the wall would just be the team. I remember he was playing Preston away and not been involved. Well, not been on the bench, not started a game all season. And I just walked in and I was just like, didn't even bother looking at him. Everyone was like, Johnny was starting. I was like, oh, brilliant. Like, and had the game of my life, to be honest. Ran the fullback ragged and just had a good run of form. And I think I scored like 7 goals by Christmas. Then after that, found myself in and out the side again, which was unfortunate. But yeah, like as a club, like can't speak highly enough of them.
You mentioned about the fan base, you mentioned about the area, the team. Explain what it's like being a Sheffield United player and living in Sheffield and everything that goes around with it.
Sheffield, great city, loved it there, and the fans are just so passionate. You're likely, if you're out and about in town during the day, you're likely to get stopped and spoken to by the fans and all the rest of it. But like a great city, great fan base. Like on a Tuesday, a cold, wet, rainy, windy, snowy Tuesday evening at Bramall Lane, you're still going to get 20,000. The club does everything that they deserve right now. They're in the Premier League and flying high, and still some of their mates are still there, which I'm delighted for right now, and it's brilliant for them.
Having established yourself at this stage as a Jamaican international, what's it like when you're going away with the reggae boys and stuff and meeting up with the rest of the Jamaican national team?
Yeah, that was, again, probably in the top 2 or 3 proudest moments, becoming an international and being a part of the national team and playing in the stadiums and singing the anthem, like the goosebumps on your arms, like it was brilliant. Against we got spanked by England at Old Trafford, but just being a part of that was fantastic, and being a part of like World Cup qualifiers and playing in a Gold Cup in America, like these are moments that can never be taken away from you, and I'm extremely proud that I've been able to do that.
What were the Jamaican-based players like with the English-based Jamaican players? Was there a little bit of divide amongst the guys, or was it quite a sort of easy mesh and integration amongst the squad?
I think the previous guys, like the older guys, like with Jason Yules, and the Dion Burtons, and Fitzroy Simpson, and the Paul Halls. I think they paved the way to make it a lot easier for those players to go over. I've heard stories in the past. There's a little bit of animosity between the Jamaican players and the English players. But that's part and part. That's life, though, isn't it? But they definitely paved the way to make it easier and to be accepted. And listen, the Jamaicans they'll accept you if you're good enough. And if you're good enough, that's half the battle. And luckily enough, I proved myself to be good enough, and I was accepted by them.
Short stint back at Notts County, which I'm guessing you kind of enjoyed. Was you looking to make that stay longer the second time round, or was that an option that was available for yourself?
That short stint was obviously I went up there on loan from Sheffield United, and to be honest, it was disappointing. I think I only played a couple of games, and in both games that I played, one game I pulled my calf, and then I come back from that, and then I've done my medial ligaments in my knee. I think it was away to the Oval. There was a frustrating time there. That was really frustrating. But it is what it is, and that's football.
How long was your rehabilitation for that injury, and how do you keep yourself motivated when you've got such a severe injury to deal with?
Yeah, my knee. I think I was out for like 2 to 3 months with that. The medial ligament is probably the worst injury it's the worst injury that I've had. But I think it's, people say you're cruciate and stuff, but the medial was even constantly when you're kicking the ball. If you don't get that right, the pain is horrible.
Short spells at Chesterfield as well. Again, going back on old ground to teams that you've hit form with. Did you enjoy your second spell at Chesterfield?
Yeah, it was okay. Again, it was just one of them, like what I alluded to at the beginning of the interview. Obviously, just wanting to play football. Found myself out of the side at Sheffield United, and it was just one of them. Chris Morgan was one of my coaches at Sheffield United, and he had become Danny Wilson's assistant at Chesterfield, and saw that I was out the side and just wanted to get it done. And once I heard of the interest, I went to Nigel Atkins, who was my Sheffield United manager at the time. And I was just like, look, I'm just going to go out and play football like that. And like I said to you at the beginning, it's just like, literally, being at Sheffield United, brilliant, great club. Not got a bad word to say about them. Wish them the very best and all the rest of it. But if I'm not playing, I've got no interest in being there. Like, yeah, you know what I can do. If you believe in me, play me. If you don't, just let me go. And that doesn't mean like if I'm not playing for one game or whatever. Obviously, it might have been 5, 10, 15 games that I'm not getting the minutes that I want and deserve. So I'm just one of those players that, listen, Gaffer, what do I need to do? If I'm not doing it, tell me what I need to do. And if you think that Joe Bloggs is doing better than me or whatever, okay, cool, no problem. Just let me go and play my football. And that was just another one of those moments. And I just went to Chesterfield to help them. And and I ended up scoring a few goals and worked out all right.
You played well enough to, again, secure yourself a move to Barnet. A move that you feel that was right for your progression at that time?
Obviously, at that time, I was 33, coming to the end of my career. And I'll be honest, like, the phone wasn't ringing as much as it used to. I thought it would have rung a lot more, obviously, being at a club like Sheffield United and stuff, but it was getting to that stage now where so many clubs have called my agent and shown interest, heard about the money I was on and all the rest of it, and then there was like, I can go and nick a young player from Tottenham, like 23s or whatever. So football was starting to go in that direction, that they'd rather go and get a younger boy on loan or someone, a younger player that's been released from a Premier League club or whatever. So the phone wasn't ringing too much, and then I just got a call out of the blue from Martin Allen, and for me it was just about it was going home as well, going back to London. I hadn't been back home in years. And that excited me so much. And obviously travelling down, went to Barnet, seen the setup, the stadium and the training ground next to the stadium. It's a great setup down there. And straight away, I fell in love with the club. It actually felt like home. So I went down there and I had a fantastic 2 years there.
You did indeed. You hit some good form for Barnet. Played a lot of games as well. I know you've set out that 500 league game target. Are you starting to feel that you're getting closer to it now, like especially with the massive run of games you had at Barnet?
Yeah, I was always onto it about how many games I played and all the rest of it. So I think, while I was there, I played League and Cup and played over 500 games. So that was a proud moment for me.
Yeah, I bet. It's another thing ticked off the list. I mean, to play 500 games in the Football League is huge achievement. Did you reset yourself another target at that stage, another goal? Or are you kind of now, like you said, reaching the age of 34, maybe thinking of life after football a little bit?
I think at that stage in my career, it was let's just see how long I can last. I'll just play for as long as I possibly can. Barnet after my first year gave me another year. In that time at Barnet, I think I can't even remember how many managers that I scored.
Really?
Martin Allen, Graham Wesley, Rossi. I think I must have went through it. Kevin Nugent. Must have went through about 4 or 5, maybe even 6 managers, which was different. I know that, but again, I love the football club. Wish them all the very best, and hopefully one day I can go back there in some capacity. But when Graham Wesley come, didn't really see eye to eye, and ended up going back with my old mate Keith Curl, back up to the other end of the country, up to Carlisle. But he was brilliant. The only way I could have agreed to go to Carlisle is not that I put it to him. He sold it to me. He was like, "Listen, if we've got a game Saturday to Saturday," he was like, "doing all right. You don't have to come in until the Thursday." So I was literally playing on the Saturday, and then seeing the boys on the Thursday. Me and Clint Hill really looked after us. And then at that stage of your career, you've got a manager there that trusts you and believes in you. And it was brilliant.
I can imagine. Like, you come back to his saying about his man management and stuff. That's a key thing. The fact he knew you needed to be in London, predominantly have that settled family environment to get the best out of you, especially managing your knee injuries as well. Thursday to Sunday seems perfect for a player of your age.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just fantastic. But the thing is, he knew that I'm a player, that I've always looked after my body, looked after myself. I'd be in the gym every day doing what I needed to do. But yeah, just Thursday mornings I was on that phone at what was it, 6 o'clock, 3 hours up to Carlisle. It was easy enough. It was brilliant. Really enjoyed it.
Are you thinking about your coaching badges at this age? Are you thinking about what's going to happen when you hang up the boots for the final time?
Well, it's funny you should say that. Where was I? I can't remember if it was when I was at Barnet or if it was in my last year at Sheffield United. I'd done my B licence in Northern Ireland and absolutely hated it. And I was just like, not interested in coaching or whatever. Nothing at all. And then obviously went to Stevenage for a year, which was an absolute nightmare. Just didn't really see eye to eye with Dino Maria. Felt like I signed for a running club instead of a football club. But yeah, that was another experience. And then literally at the end of the season, obviously coming to this season, just fell into the job at Colchester as player under 23s coach, which was different. And now I find myself as a coach and now currently studying for my A license.
How have you handled that transition from worrying about keeping yourself fit, maintaining your own body, your own injury, your own perspective, to now looking at other players, to looking at other players' strengths and developing their weaknesses and worrying about their training rather than your own?
Well, what was good for me was the transition was I was player coach, so I'm a fitness freak, so I'm still keeping myself ticking over. This was probably the best transition for me, being able to still play and go into the coaching. So it allowed me, it was just the smoothest transition for me. And I don't think last year I was ready to just go straight into coaching. So Colchester giving me that platform to coach and still play was fantastic. And now I'm just ready to sink my teeth straight into coaching.
Having had the experiences that you've had as a player, played under such a different variation of managers, so you've had different styles of manager, from your more hands-on approach to your managers that are more in the background. Do you feel that that's helped you as a coach? You've seen so many different ideas and taken in so many different methods.
Yeah, I think over my 20 plus years of playing, I think what it's done, it's helped me dissect how I don't want to be as a coach. I think that's the most important. What methods I don't want to use and wouldn't use. I think that's the most important thing. And I think that's equally as important as taking bits up from the good coaches and the good people. Is taking bits that I've seen over the past that I definitely wouldn't do. So I think that's hopefully put me in a good position to hopefully go on to be a good coach for years to come.